What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the broader markets. I'm going to talk about what's happening with the government shutdown as it's just ended and how the market's responding thus far. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below or use my QR code right here to sign up. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 for free Nvda stock. If you deposit $2,000, you're going to get $50 worth of Nvda, deposits $10,000 to get $300 worth of the stock, or deposits $50,000 to get $1,000 of free Nvdia. You're also going to qualify for a 3.6% APY plus a 4.5% APY extra for 3 months, making it an 8.1% APY in total. And the offer ends very soon, so please check out my link down below to sign up. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So I just wanted to mention that when we look at SPY, it looks like we have a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder that's been forming. And overall, despite the government shutdown ending, the stock market is down in the pre-market exactly as we predicted. And there is a risk of downside looking at the current setups. So let's break this down. What's going on? There was some big news that came out that President Trump has signed the agreement, which has ended the longest government shutdown in U.S. history last night. This is a short-term funding bill, which would keep the government funded up until the month of January or the ending of January. The U.S. House of Representatives ended up passing the agreement from the Senate. And once again, President Trump has signed it. So that is once again, some good news because this helps to reopen a lot of the benefits, a lot of the services of the U.S. government. It's going to help to pay more federal employees. That's very important. And with that being said, yes, we're going to see data eventually coming out, but not yet. The White House is telling us that a series of job, economic, and inflationary reports were not published during the government shutdown, and they may never be publicly released, according to what we're hearing from the White House. It's also unlikely that the reports for CPI and the federal jobs data will be released for October. What's ironic is that from what I'm seeing, according to like Goldman Sachs and other sources, the jobs numbers were not that good, at least to begin with, right? Sources suggest that we lost a lot of jobs and payrolls were actually very, very weak for the month of October. But it looks like this data might not be released or it's going to be delayed. We'll have to see about that. But overall, once again, not the best of pieces of news. This once again incentivizes the Fed to be more dovish and to ease up on policy as we're seeing a further weakening in the labor markets. And besides that, we had Disney announcing their earnings. Unfortunately for Mickey Mouse and the team, they missed their earnings, and the share price is currently down about 6%. It's not the best of news, at least for Disney. But the overall streaming services did grow, at least for them. So there are still good pieces of news. I'd say earnings was more mixed, but they did miss on their earnings, which is why we're seeing that happen. So besides that, I'm not going to go over the details about other pieces of politics. The thing that happened is that, with President Trump signing the overall agreement and with the House passing it, this is technically, good news for everyday Americans. It's good news for us that the government is back and it's functioning. But keep in mind that, like we said earlier, I believed that this news is mostly priced in for the stock market, and the market's reaction might resemble that of a buy the rumors, sell the news sort of event where we pumped really hard approaching this government shutdown. And now that it's, sorry, not the government shutdown, the government shutdown ending, right? Since the agreement came out, we just pumped so much. And now that the agreement has passed Congress and President Trump signed it, the market gets a dump afterwards. Like I said, you buy the rumors, sell the news. Walt Disney basically had its earnings, and that's pretty much it for earnings. So what do I see for the stock market? As you can tell, we're looking bearish and we're favoring 679.6 on SPY based off our 200 EMA, which is about to be tested. So we look more bearish. To be bullish, you need to reclaim two levels. You got to get back above 682 and 686. If we break those both, we're going to look for a big bounce, but as of right now, the setup does not favor that. We're actually below each of our resistances. And like I said, we have a left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and the trend on SPY is looking like it's forming a pivot. I also mentioned to you guys we had a rising wedge on SPY. You guys can see it right here. And now we're rejecting and we're favoring a move back down to fill this gap, right? Also, another sign that we're bearish is this. Just look at the overall trend. Before, SPY was making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. Now we had a high from yesterday. We came down, made a lower high, came down, made a lower high, and we're just going to likely start trending downwards. So we look more bearish. The 4-hour time frame is telling us that 679 is going to be tested. And if that fails us, we have 678 as our support. If that fails us, I think we go for the gap fill for 672. There's easily going to be a 2 to 8 point downside move, in my opinion. And this is exactly what we predicted yesterday, that after the shutdown ends, there's going to likely be downside. So what is my prediction? My prediction is that SPY might see a little bit of a consolidation when we open it slowly. It's going to downtrend. I think 679 and 678 will be tested. And if this breaks, I would not rule out 672 for a downside move by tomorrow. I think there's going to be some nice downside coming for the markets. The QQQ is barely holding on to support. This looks even weaker than SPY because it's down more, and then simultaneously you have a left shoulder, head, right shoulder. We need to reclaim 625 to bounce. If we don't, we're favoring 617. If that fails us, there's a gap to fill back down to 612. Left shoulder, head and right shoulder, and rejection. Back down to 612 is most likely coming. Unless you reclaim 625 to invalidate the downside, we're favoring a big rug pull for 612. For the IWM, we're looking more bearish. We're making lower highs here. We need to reclaim 244 to bounce, right? If we don't, we're going to be favoring downside back down to 240. Also on the 4-hour time frame, we have 241 and there's like a gap to fill down there. So I think we easily test that. If that fails us, we could be retesting the lows. It's possible 238 to 236 is tested on the Russell. On ES, we're making a lower high. We are basically going to be retesting 68.43. If it doesn't hold, I think we easily drop for like the 6700s again, and we're going to likely fill the gap to 67.60. Looking at NQ, same thing as the QQQ. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Looks bearish. Unless we get back above 25,600 to try to reclaim this and invalidate this. Actually, to invalidate this, you need to break 25,800. Could consolidate a bit before we continue to fall for 25,400. If that fails us, there's a gap right here to fill at 25,200. Bitcoin is showing some weakness, lower high, lower high, lower high, looking for 101,000. If it doesn't hold, these lows could be retested. Tesla is showing some weakness. We're coming very close to my price target of 422. We need to see if it holds. If not, we're looking for 420 and very close to 415 as our supports. Overall, it's weak unless we get back above 440, but we're not close to that. We're favoring downside on Tesla. Nvda is on a downtrend. It's favoring the gap fill to 188 and eventually a test of 186.5 for some temporary downside. Appl is technically on a downtrend. We have 272 as our support. If that fails us, we're looking for 269. On Palantir, we're showing some weakness. We're going to be testing 178 most likely. AMD is showing weakness, favoring 246 to 248 for some temporary downside. Coinbase is favoring 300 if that fails us. I think 298 or below are coming, and then eventually like 290. Amazon has 241 coming if it does not hold. We could be looking for 238 or below. Meta is showing some weakness. We could be revisiting close to like 600 flats. There's a big support there. We're going to see if it holds or not. If it doesn't, it's a big buying opportunity on Meta. Google is favoring the gap fill back down towards 280, and then Microsoft is favoring, although it's consolidating right here, we need to see if this breaks 515 to continue. If not, we could be dipping to 507. And last but not least, the VIX is trying to bounce here, and there is upside potential in this if we hold above 18.05. If it does, there's going to be a gap to fill back up towards 19. So I think we're going to see an increase in implied volatility, and option premiums are going to be going up in value. And the VIX has upside potential looking at this inverse head and shoulders and a nice bounce. Once again, another confluence that the market has downside risk. And I think there is more downside risk looking at the setups. All right, so this is exactly what we predicted would happen yesterday. I thank you all so much for listening, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Watch your levels, and just know that right now the setups look more bearish. Thank you, and peace out.